switching another position, Coach, going to left guard if possible. And I heard a lot of theories about that. Brendan, when you hear that transition, what are your thoughts for Andrus Peat?
I think it's interesting, and it really messes with someone who is as young as Peat is in the league to be switching positions as much as he has so far in his young NFL career. Now, I know in college he had not played on that right side, and he wasn't as comfortable nor experienced on the right side of the line, but he struggled at guard both positions. He hasn't looked too good at the tackle positions when he's filled in, whether it's been a preseason game or a regular season game. I think it's one of these things where a lot of raw talent, you could definitely see why he was picked as high as he was because of what he was able to do at a great program at Stanford. But this is still a project. This is still a guy who is going to need time in the league to really hit his full potential. I think that's why he was drafted, to replace Zach Strief. Now, that being said, I can understand where Saints fans are coming from with, we used an extremely high first-round draft pick on this kid, and we expect him to come in and play really good football right out the gate. So I think more than anything, this is Peyton coming out and saying, we're trying this position, and hopefully we won't have to move him again.
Okay. That is a good analysis. I heard also that, since he naturally plays differently as far as how his hand and foot technique is concerned, Coach, that being on the left side may be better for him. What are your thoughts since you've coached before?
Yeah, they haven't been very fair with him. It is true that last year in the last game when he played at left guard, he did a credible job. You could see some light at the end of the tunnel, and perhaps his perception of things on the left side is better, even though there's no question he struggled at the left tackle position. And so I'm certain that that's not the place he needs to be right now. But Caleb Barnes has played predominantly on the right side, and so this looks like moving Pete to the left side. We hope is his last move because he really needs to be fair to him to get put in one place, and let's see if he indeed can play or not. But it appears they've opened up the right guard position to try to fit Barnes in there. I was hoping they'd find somebody more at the left guard position because I've been thinking that Pete, between Max Unger and Zach Strief, would become and working with them on a consistent basis would give us a more solid right side of an offensive line. And we did see some indication last week that running the ball to the right had some effectiveness, and that if you put Pete at right guard and you could solidify that, then you only have one position that you have to be with. In fact, I was even thinking that if Armstead was going to be out, to just go ahead and deal with that with somebody else and try to scheme the left side and do what you can over there instead of messing the whole offensive lineup. The overlook over everything we talk about in the offensive line is that they'd like to be able to only keep 7 linemen. That's the ideal thing. They may have to keep 8, but they're looking to only keep 7 for the 5 positions, meaning that somebody in the starting group really has got to be versatile enough to play one of the other positions, and the 2 backups have got to be able to play more than one position as well, and one of those has got to be center, which both in a pinch, even though Allen has been getting most of the backup reps, but in a pinch, both Lolito and Calamente have played center in games. So how you're able to take it with the Barnes acquisition, how you're going to be able to fit all those pegs into 7 or if at most 8 holes is going to be a difficult decision for the Saints to have to be able to do. Not that they're that good to be able to fit into it, but you've got to keep the right 7. You've got to keep the right 8 and be able to have a plan to for them to be able to improve by being steady in what they're working with. Way too much movement around the offensive line. That's an indication of a bad offensive line, because the best offensive lines in the league get their 5 guys, and unless there's an injury, they know where those 5 guys are going, and those 5 guys are working at their positions right from the start, and then you've got the other 2 or 3 positions that you're fighting, that they're competing and fighting for. Way too much movement for an offensive line to be effective, and I think that's also a reason that the starters are going to start this week, that hopefully they wind up with 5 guys that are going to be able to start the first week and get them some game repetition, because every play in a preseason game is like 10 repetitions in practice. It's that it means that much, and so hopefully they got five people they could settle on that, and because if they don't play well, then I don't care what the other people do. If that offensive line doesn't play well, this football team is going to suffer, because anything below excellent with the Saint offense in this case with this team is losing football.
Wow. You brought up something in your commentary as far as the evaluation process is concerned. And Professor, I'm going to turn to you on this one. Right now, we have a young man, like Brendan say, he's a young man. He is second year into playing the position, but he's been playing positions. The evaluation of the talent has always been a question mark. Do you think this is something that will continue to haunt the Saints if they don't get it right with this offensive line this season?
I'm gonna say this, then I'm gonna have to put you guys on mute because I gotta go to another conference call. I don't know. Like I said, the Saints have some issues with their number ones. It's not just Andrew Speed. There's still an issue with Kenny Vaccaro. Just things have not worked out, but I agree with Brendan, and I agree with Dad. They have not been fair to the gentleman. They have not been fair. You have bounced this man all over, and then you have an expectation. I apologize for that phone ring. And then you expect him to, perform in every aspect, and that's not fair to Andrew Speed, and the Saints just have some serious things they have to work out with in terms of this offensive line. I don't know if it's coaching, or I don't know if it's a situation that has occurred where it's personnel that just can't perform. But, this line, these are the same players from last year, and they played adequately. They did not, look this horrible. Let's just hope it's just preseason things and getting themselves back into football shape, and, that they can turn this around. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But okay. I'll be right back, guys.
All right, thanks, Professor. Remy, man, and I'm just going to throw this back at you. You talked about the rushing game has been suffering. Mark Ingram has had, what, Coach, is it 1.9 yards per carry this preseason?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's been really, really difficult to watch. They did start making some headway second quarter, third quarter of the game as well. I saw they kept Ingram in a lot longer the last game. Man, if we are really going to really help out Drew Brees and his 37-year-old body, we need to have a rushing game.
Exactly. Now, when they started moving the ball, as I said, I wasn't messing with the Steelers fans anymore, but I did have a conversation with a gentleman who was sitting close to me who was a Steelers fan. And when they finally started to move the ball some, I asked him, are those your starters? And he looked down on the field and he said, a lot of them are. Now, so it wasn't the entire first string, but a lot of the guys who were out there was the first string. So it seems as though something good kind of started happening after. I mean, it took Pittsburgh two easy series moving down on us, But on our next possession of the ball, after they scored twice, we were able to get the ball moving. We were able to run the ball a little bit, and I even saw a hole or two a couple of times where guys were able to get maybe 7, 8, 9 yards on a carry. So it looked like maybe, I don't want to say things too soon, but it looked like maybe things were starting to come together a little bit. But
okay.
Again, I don't want to speak too soon. And again, Pittsburgh's defense is not a sorry defense. And if they were able to do that against Pittsburgh's defense with a lot of their starters still on the field, I'm hoping they can turn that into something positive.
Okay, good. Brendan, did you have a opportunity to watch any parts of the game?
I got the second half of the game. I was calling, I believe it was a women's soccer game against Davidson on Friday, but I got the second half.
Okay. Let me address this with you, Coach. As far as the wide receivers are concerned, do you think these guys are on track? How do you peg the starting crew right now? Is it going to be, of course, we got Snead and Brandon Cooks. Is it Michael Thomas at number 3? What do you see?
I think that's exactly right. I don't see any way that it's any different than that. Michael Thomas has been somebody who has stepped in and lived up to his expectations. And it's interesting as I look through their ages. You have Michael Thomas and Vaughn Bell coming in at the same time. They're both from Ohio State. They're both rookies. Michael Thomas is 23 years old. Vaughn Bell is 21. And you could see the maturity in Michael Thomas's play because Michael Thomas is the same age as Tommy Lee Lewis, as Willie Snead, the same age as them. They're both older than Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is 22 years old right now. Brandon Coleman is 24. So Thomas and fellas is studying this. And I'm not just talking about physical development. Males will continue to grow until, especially when you talk about musculature, till they're 24, 25 years old. And when you start, of all things, I've actually spent some time studying the prefrontal cortex of the brain, because that's the last part of the brain that develops, is the front of the brain. And that's what tells you right from wrong. It's your conscience, pretty much.
Well,
tells you what's dangerous, what isn't dangerous. Okay?
Can I just pause right there, Coach? So you're saying the front of the brain is the last part of development, and that's what men use mostly, right?
It depends upon whether your researcher is male or female. There are some scientists that think that the male brain never fully develops. But that is, in fact, the last part of the brain to complete develop. And that's why you see guys at 17 to 21, 22 years old doing risky things, and then all of a sudden, 23, 24, 25, they start going, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Because there's a physiological reason for that.
Okay.
But you can see them, and that doesn't fully develop in males, especially till you're 25. And that with females have a similar type of development with that. But you could see Michael Thomas, getting back to the real concern, that you could see the maturity. So he's definitely the third receiver there. Brandon Coleman, we keep waiting. I'm not certain for what. I don't think he can be the player that they would like him to be, but perhaps he's ahead of the rest of them, except Tommy Lee Lewis keeps showing up, and he provides one of the things that the Saints don't have, and that's short area quickness.
Right.
That he can get open in short areas. And out of all the guys we just looked at, none of them are run after catch guys. When you get down to it, they're good down the field receiver types. But Tommy Lee Lewis is the one receiver we've seen so far that does give you some run after catch potential. So if they keep, I think that there's a real chance that they keep 5. If they keep 5, Brandon Coleman, I think, is going to be that 5th one, because maybe I just like 5'7" receivers that play as fast as Tommy Lee Lewis does. But I see a real chance for Lewis to make the team ahead of Coleman.
Yeah, he could be a running gun.